Okay, Ken, if I can remember back one week in Daytona Motor Mouths lore, I think I started last week's episode by asking you if Tyler Reddick was a contender after winning the first two races this season. And
Yeah,
you said, no, not yet. How
no,
do you like three?
he's a contender. He's a contender, but so is several other drivers are obviously contenders too, and some of them are back in the 20s right now in point standings. He is not a favorite. I would not list him as a favorite. And you can just take my word for it, or you can let me explain. It's up to you.
I'll let you explain. Go ahead.
Uh, I knew you would. That's why I put it that way. Um, we've run basically two plate races in a road course. He's obviously good at plate races, as is a lot of drivers who won't necessarily be favored to run up front at the mid-size ovals. He's a really good road course racer. Probably he might be second best to SVG at that, and
And not
SVG
his
was
not
second
his
best
first
to him.
win at not his first win at COTA, and he's on
No,
the pole, and yeah.
no, he's won some plate races of his 10 previous Cup Series wins. I think 3 of them might have been plate races. Um, so he's good at that. But keep in mind, and I keep saying this, these next 6 weeks are going to be on oval tracks that are not hamstrung by restrictor plate rules, which they don't use restrictor plates anymore, but we called them plate races for 30 or 40 years, and by God, I'm sticking with it. 30 years, I guess it was. Starting with Phoenix this week. And over the next 6 weeks, I think there's also Martinsville and Bristol, 2.5 milers are in there. Phoenix is a 1 mile track. I believe Vegas and Kansas are in there too. You're looking at a mile and a half. So these next 6 weeks will tell the tale. I think that's when you're the next 6 weeks you're going to start seeing William Byron and Kyle Larson contend for wins. You're going to see Denny Hamlin get up there and contend for a win. Christopher Bell, not Shirley, surely. You're going to see these guys, the usual suspects, will be up there contending for wins in the next 6 weeks. That's not to say Tyler Reddick won't be. I mean, because he's what we call a good little racer, and he might very likely be up there contending for wins. I fully expect him to at least once or twice over the next 6 weeks, and his teammate Bubba Wallace may also. Um, so we will know more in 6 weeks. When you're saying 6 weeks, what happens in week 7? 7 weeks down the road, they go to Talladega for the first of 2 Talladega races this year. And then we're right back to, anybody can win. And then after that, we settle back down in the regular, what I like to call honest ovals. And I think that was our 17th president, honest oval. That's going to tell the tale more than these previous 3 weeks have. Now, having said all that, if Tyler Reddick wins 8 times this year and is a champion, I would only be mildly surprised. I guess I'd be surprised that anybody won 8 races this day and age. But say he wins 5 or 6 races for the year and goes to the final race with a real shot to win the championship. I wouldn't be shocked, because several years ago when they were looking at up and coming guys, a lot of the veterans looked at Tyler Reddick and said he's going to be the next big thing. And figuratively speaking, anyway. He's never
I mean,
looked shorter than he does when he's standing next to his team owner.
yeah, 6'6" to whatever they list Tyler at, 5'5" or whatever. We did see
Somewhere in
this a
there.
year ago. To go with your point, we did see this a year ago with Christopher Bell winning 3 of the first 4 races, including 3 in a row. It didn't make him, the champion for the rest of the season, but it kept him in contention. And obviously, there's a different format now, so Reddick has a nice little head start. We got to get your St. Pete truck race report. You were there in person last week.
Yeah,
What was the vibe?
it was a great vibe. I was only there for Saturday. I didn't go back to the IndyCar race Sunday. Saw them practice and qualify on Saturday. Brought back a souvenir as their schedule on the back, and you'll notice. You won't notice, too small. Excuse me. Second race on the IndyCar schedule is this weekend in Phoenix. They're pairing up with the Cup and O'Reilly cars at Phoenix. Saturday, the IndyCar will run the Phoenix Oval, And the O'Reilly cars for NASCAR will run the Phoenix Oval, and then Sunday the NASCAR race, the Cup race, will be the main event for the weekend. But it's fun to see the mingling of those two. It happened a few years in a row at Indy back in like 20 through 23, I think it was. 20, it was kind of forced on them because of COVID. And then they paired up, and both Cup and IndyCar ran the Indy road course in late summer, early fall for a few years in a row, and then they quit doing that. But this will be the first time on an oval, and it's interesting. And I don't think this happens without Roger Penske being the head of IndyCar racing and Indy Speedway. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I think it'll be a fun mix of fans out there. I assume they'll get along, but you never know. So that's going to be cool. The trucks at the St. Pete Street Course, they did all right. They bunched up a few times, and the usual suspects didn't make it to the checkers. But it's an event. It's road course events are events more than they are your typical race. It's not your typical race crowd, your typical race scene. All kind of stuff is going on out in the boondocks around a road course. And a street course is even, I think, a little wilder than a normal road course because you're not that far away from you walk just outside the gates and you're downtown of all the storefronts and restaurants. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. I would do it again. And sight lines aren't the great, but you get that in road course and street races. You can't see a whole lot of the track, so you plant yourself somewhere where you can see a good chunk of it, or an entertaining part of the track, and hopefully have a jumbotron within vision, because that way you can watch 90% of the lap on the jumbotron and your little 10% sliver wherever you are. Not too unlike being at the Rolex at Daytona in January.
Yeah, pick a spot, go have a good time, and watch 10% of the race. That works. Ken, I think that's all I got for you. Anything else we need to mention this week?
Man, we might be getting this thing down into a manageable level of time. No, I'm looking forward. Again, it's going to be interesting to see if we spot Kyle Larson this weekend and Denny Hamlin and again the rest of the Hee Haw gang that's usually up front with the lead pack. But that'll be fun. And they got to get going. A lot of these guys are way down in points, starting the year, and it's a long, long season. But every point you lose in February and March, and every point you gain in February and March, they count the same in October as they do now. So, if you're leaving 20 points on the table now, you're never going to make those up. So you got to start making up ground, and I expect a lot of the blue bloods to start doing that at Phoenix. How's that for a finish?
Yeah, your two winners last year at Phoenix were Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney. So two of the usual suspects, to use your verbiage.
NASCAR blood doesn't get any bluer than that, I don't think. You got Penske and Joe Gibbs racing, and so yeah, I think that'll probably be something similar over the next few weeks.
That'll do it for this edition of Motor Mouths. Ken, I'll see you next week.
Can't wait.